My dad didn't tell me about my mom's death and funeral. I don't know what to do. My mom and dad are both Chinese and I am black. Both of my parents were on a mission trip with their church when they came across me at an orphanage in Kenya. It took them about 2 years to finalize adoption because the orphanage was very wary of giving a black child to Asian parents. When my parents brought me home, they were met with so much hate. Both of their families demanded they return me at once. My dad worked as a janitor and my mom worked at a laundromat. My parents struggled financially, but they tried their best to give me the best life. This went on for 5 years until they got a letter from my grandma on my dad's side saying they regret what went down and they would like to try again only if they would allow it. They were hesitant at first but accepted. One thing led to another and slowly my mom and dad allowed them back into their lives. They made it very clear any negative comments towards me or about me would result in them going no contact again. My dad's side eventually came around. My mom's side never did. My parents decided it would be best for us to move back to China. About 3 days ago I got a call from my dad that my mom had passed away. When I heard those words, I could not express the sadness. The woman who took me in when I knew one else would and raised me in a loving home was now gone. The woman who never let me forget my roots was now gone and taught me to be proud of my race and embrace myself was now gone. I asked him how and which I will not go into the details of. But he told me it happened a week ago. I lost it. I began yelling and shouting how he could not tell me sooner. His response was he didn't want to disturb me and my studies because he knows how I get it. The last time my mom was sick I dropped everything and got on a flight the very next day to China. Without informing anyone. I told him it wasn't his call to make. I told him I needed to go and hung up. I called back an hour later and apologized and asked him when the funeral was. He got very quiet and said it already happened. I lost it again, calling him a selfish, vulgar word among other hurtful things. I told him I hated him. I hung up immediately and crawled into bed and broke down crying. The RA of our dorm came in to do a wellness check because dad and professors haven't heard from me. I eventually turned on my phone and immediately got a call from my grandma calling me selfish for worrying everyone like that. She also informed me my mom knew she was dying and specially asked my dad not to tell me because she didn't want to disrupt my studies. I asked if I could speak to my dad, and she said it'd be best if I leave him alone and that we both take time to breathe before we talk to each other again. I understand what I said was wrong, but it was coming from a place of hurt and shock. But for him, I know I need to apologize, but a part of me is still very hurt for what he did. Edit. I am a girl. Op. I think your feelings are extremely valid, but I think this sub will give you a Western perspective on an Eastern culture, which I'm not sure will be all that helpful. You're extremely justified in your feelings. I couldn't imagine the hurt you must have. But do try to hear that these were your mother's wishes as well. I think therapy would be a good idea and a conversation with your dad when you feel you can be a little more calm. Maybe he can tell you something about your mom's intentions and final moments that might make you feel a bit better. I know there's really nothing to make you feel better right now, but not fighting with your dad could help, even if it's just to discuss it again when it's not so raw. You need your dad right now. You are the only two people who share how you feel about your mom. Good luck, Op. You are right to feel hurt and forgotten. You didn't deserve any of this. I don't have a transracial adoption perspective, but I am American growing up with Chinese immigrant family. I will say that from a Chinese perspective, my parents would do stuff like that hands down. The culture of filial duty. Doing what the parent thinks best for the child. even if it means deciding things for the child. And the cultural idea, duty of sacrifice. Kai Ku. They wanted to take on the suffering again, for you. As if they could really prevent it. And the idea of education taking precedence. With my parents, this can feel invasive at times. Disempowering. Invalidating my ability to make my own choices. Like when I wanted to be a vegetarian in middle school, they snuck meat into my food. I'm sorry their choices hurt you and took agency away from you. It sounds like they loved you very much but also made some mistakes. And even though you weren't able to be there at the end, your mom knew you love her very much too. What they did to you was awful. Those feelings you have are valid. If you can, maybe see if there's a counselor on campus you can speak to. I can't even fathom not being told immediately about a parent's death. Never mind being purposely excluded from their funeral. That's a lot of cruelty on top of the tragedy of losing your mom. I'm so sorry. Heart adhesive bandage. Edit. Typo. You are valid. These emotions are so painfully intense. We're only human. Please take your time to grieve and reflect on the wonderful life your mother lived. Both your parents had your future in their minds and hearts during possibly the darkest days of their lives. Please continue your studies and do your best. They believe in you. Your mother loved and believed in you until the very end. You are so loved. Please take care of yourself. Of course you are hurt. That seems very reasonable. People made decisions on your behalf and cut you out of your own mother's funeral. I think if you are mad about that, that is fine. Maybe you want to apologize for saying hurtful things. But I think your father also owes you an apology. I hope you have access to a therapist or other counseling through your school or that your family could pay for. I think it would help you to talk to someone who isn't directly involved in the situation. People grieve in the weirdest ways. And him foregoing closure for you for the purposes of your studies is right indeed. And I wonder, if at all, he was swayed by his side and her side of the family. Take all the time you need for your grief. But don't let it consume you, as it does so many. A quick question, however. Last time she was sick and you dropped everything to go home. What repercussions were there on the end of the school? If you were disciplined or on thin ice, of any sort academic level. And I'm not agreeing. But the weight put into academia in Asian countries is insurmountable. Right? I defer to your judgment as you are much better versed in the culture. I would assume. So that possible could play a part. But it doesn't excuse it. Allow yourself time. Cry as much as you want. And when you feel up to it, write down all of the things you want to say to dad, family. And reread it several times. If at the end of the 7th time, you feel comfortable relaying the message, sleep on it. Then send it the next day. I wish you the best. And if you need to talk to anyone about grief, there are plenty of resources out there. And ears willing to listen. Including mine. Good luck. I wish you a solid road of healing. And I hope you remember to celebrate your mom anytime you can. Remember her with love in your heart. And teach the lessons she taught to you. Pass on the love and let go of the hate. As much as you can right now. I am so sorry for your loss. You have my deepest sympathies. This situation isn't easy. Everyone deals with grief differently. You have every reason to be hurt and upset. He should have given you the chance to say your goodbye. He is grieving as well. When you both have had some time to process it, I hope you will talk it out. It's important to let him know what you're feeling. Hugs. I am so sorry about the loss of your mom. Understand your parents are trying to do what they think is the best. It's out of love. Misguided love. But still love. Cut your dad some slack. He's in pain too. Go to China when you have the chance. And make amends. Let both your hearts heal. You are right to be angry. Your dad isn't only responsible by smaller part. I think Mom's family is. Your dad had definitely hard time to bring you bad news and also adhering to Mom's family wishes. Hope this helps you to understand and forgive your dad. Also, Chinese culture is tight. Your parents made big changes to their life in terms of cultural customs. I am so sorry you are going through this. Your reaction to your father is very understandable, and while I'm not suggesting you hold a grudge, I would definitely be awaiting an apology from him. I don't know if you've considered it, but I think your mom's family may have specifically requested you not be invited to the funeral, since they never came around to you. Of course, none of this is fair. You will need to find ways to grieve your mother as well as celebrate her life in your own way. Heart. So sorry for your loss. You have to understand that your parents, as you already said, did struggle in their life to provide you with what you need. Their life mission is that you succeed, and they probably accept that it's even more important than life or death for them. If your mother, even fighting sickness, asked to your father not to tell you, please respect that. Your father is probably already suffering a lot for its loss if he was to suffer because he respect your mother. Last words, he doesn't deserve that. The best gift you can offer to your mother is to finish your studies. It's what she wanted to. Don't judge your father. Hi, as a Chinese person who experienced very similar things to you, I think I have a say in this. My mom caught cancer and passed away in 2016. My dad, as well as the whole family, particularly my mom, did not inform me nor my sister. Both of us were in Europe studying anything about it until the last minute. Of course, it's due to the most stupid reason I have ever heard. We do not want to interrupt your study. Even at the last minute, my dad just said like, your mom is very sick, please come back. It wasn't until we arrive at the hospital that we realize my mom is actually already brain dead, and the doctors only keep her alive that the daughters can see her that last time. Both of us were very hurt. I still can't put words together to describe this feeling. But we know we can't bring the sorrow and the anger to our family, as we knew that they did their best to take care of my mom. Best medicine. Best hospital. My dad quit his job to be a full-time caretaker and practically live in the hospital for months. I think it's a very, very Chinese thing to do. Chinese parents treat their next generation the best way, they think, which sometimes can be extremely arbitrary and ruthless. I have given up to explain to my family why I was so deeply hurt by what they have done to us, because I know they did it out of pure goodwill. And I can't possibly change the way of thinking from the whole last generation. But I guess I can stop doing this kind of brutal thing to my kids. Sounds to me your parents love you deeply out of their heart. Please talk to your family and maybe to therapist to find a best way dealing with the sorrow. Please remember what has happened cannot be changed, and we can still try our best to love the ones that still remain. I think the reason behind your dad's behavior is not to hurt you, but to protect you, which happens to be the most brutal way ever. I apologize that I can't make myself read your post in full details, as it's still a big trigger for me, so please forgive me if you feel my reply is not the most relevant one. But I think it might be helpful to share the experience with you. Hello. And thank you for your submission. Please take a moment to review the rules listed in our sidebar. For further guidance, please see our wiki. This is a bot message. I cannot respond to any comments. Please modmail us with any questions. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. I'm so very sorry this happened to you. It's awful. Just a parent's perspective. A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I knew I had to tell my kids. Both are young adults. I couldn't bring myself to do it, because I knew it would cause them pain. And as their mother, I couldn't stand the thought of hurting them. Every day I told myself that this was the day I would tell them. And every night I cried because I hadn't told them. I did finally tell them. But I took way too long to do it and they were a bit angry with me. I'm not saying that's what happened with your dad. But based on your knowledge of him, do you think that could have been a factor in his delay in telling you the news about your mom? Sometimes parents try to protect us in ways that hurt and trigger us. Try to be accepting and more loving towards yourself before others. Don't be too hard on yourself. Your mom is now an angel that is always around you and you can grieve her anytime, anywhere. Sending only healing vibes. 1. My parents didn't tell me right away my grandma died for the exact same reason. I feel you. I've actually been there. My grandma and I were very close and not knowing she died when she did threw me out. I wasn't even able to go to med school because I fell into a deep depression. I was already there. But this pushed me even more. This happened 11 years ago and when I asked my dad why they did what they did and he said that he, in particular, didn't want to disturb my studies because I was in pre-med at that time. And he did it out of concern. I was still super mad because my grandma is way more important than my studies and that my dad and everyone else were so selfish. And jokes on them because I didn't even become a doctor. But eventually, I found closure and moved on. I visit my grandma's grave often. I've learned to accept what happened and that I can't change anything. It took a lot of time. But time really heals. I'm sorry for your loss, Op. Probably not going to make you feel any better, but Asian culture, especially Chinese, are like this. It's weird, but they were trying to look out for you and were worried you'd be sad and disrupt your studies. Being educated is so high on Asian families. Many would rather lie to those they love the dearest so they don't experience that sort of pain. They rather absorb the pain themselves and shield from those they think would suffer most from the news. It's such an odd thing for me, but it's something that is commonly understood from those from the old country. For example, my aunts and uncles and pretty much the rest of my extended family never told their mom that their brother died by suicide. She had about 7 kids and nobody told her that he died. She always thought he was upset with her and the family and drifted apart from them. She died not knowing he had passed. Both your parents wanted to shield you from pain, worry, cause they rather take it on themselves. This is a very Asian move. Your dad prob knows you were coming from a place of hurt and not cause of your true feelings. You are going through the various stages of grief and I'm sure eventually you'll want to be there for your dad as much as you want your dad to be there for you. I'm so sorry for your loss. I think that your mother's wishes and your father's actions come from a place of love. I think they didn't want to jeopardize your final exams. Times like this, what you are feeling is just what it is, brother. You love your dad. And you loved your mom. The sooner you get over the anger towards your dad, the sooner you will understand that you are not the only one heartbroken by this. Be the man your mom raised and be strong for family. This is absolutely terrible. I would be torn up if this happened to me. The anger I would feel isn't measurable. But at the same time I do understand why your father didn't tell you. That doesn't make it right at all, but I do understand. I'm so sorry for your loss.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.